Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Skipton Talks. Today with me in the studio I have Clare Beardmore, Legal and General Mortgage Club Director. Welcome to Skipton, Clare.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm particularly pleased because it's the first episode of 2026. So Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you very much. That's the pleasantries out of the way. Let's get on with having a chat.
Yes, good.
Let's just look back at 2025 to start off with. In particular, from the club's perspective, what were your particular highlights and also what were maybe some of the things that frustrated you?
So a massive thank you for having me. First of all, it's lovely to be here. So reflecting on last year, our business volumes were fabulous last year. So we had a record year in lending. We completely outperformed any expectation on what we did the previous year. So that's always really good, isn't it? That's one big box with a tick in.
And was there a particular sector, purchase, remo, PT, or was it generally across all the sectors?
Generally across all sectors. Okay. We did see PT drop slightly, right. So we've averaged around 30-35% last year in 2024. Right. And last year we saw that drop, but what we've seen, which is the best thing, is we've seen that purchase and remortgage increase. So
good.
that's a good swap of business, I suppose,
no, absolutely.
if you like. So from a business perspective, a great year for us at Mortgage Club. The team are all fully embedded, which is great. We've been through quite a bit of change from a resource perspective, and I think we've now settled and we've got a fantastic team in place. And then obviously it was our 30th year anniversary last year. So we raised a hell of a lot of money for a wonderful charity. We did lots and lots of different things, and I'm sure, well, you joined us, Paul, didn't you, on the morning of our walk? You did one of the peaks.
Do you want to relive the three peaks? Or do you...
No. Even driving here this morning genuinely gave me PTSD, to be honest. And that for me, I know it's not business related, but what we did for the 30th year, I really wanted to set out and do something that made a difference, and I think the amount that we've raised will generally make a difference. So what a day it was very heartwarming. It was the toughest day of my life, absolutely, but what a day to bring everybody together. So that was a lovely thing to do.
So some great results in terms of business, some great achievements in terms of giving something back in charity. What maybe some of the frustrations?
I don't know if I'd call it frustration. I suppose the challenges, I think we've got a lot of regulatory change or a lot of regulatory proposals coming our way. And I think they're positive challenges in some respect, but also challenges we could have felt around advice. So try to turn that into a positive, and as Mortgage Club we've represented, I think, our brokers really well, and we've responded to many of the consultation papers. We actually got Nick Hill from the FCA at our event, which was again a fabulous achievement. But they are concerns. There's some worry beads in there, I think, for the advice market. Well,
let's pick up on one in particular from last year. So the execution only discussions that took part last year. What are your views? What are the club's views on the proposals?
I think execution only, it came probably a little bit left field. We saw on the back of MMR we moved into, what are we now, a 90% advised market, which is functioning really, really well. So what I struggle to see is why move away from that? Why move away from that advice, apart from a few very small exceptions why you would move away from that? I understand the challenge that a customer might want just to speak to a lender about a certain element of the mortgage, and could that be implied advice? I get all of that, so that's fine. But what the growth agenda of the country is, and what the FCA are trying to do, is naturally trying to grow the amount of people that own property. So take it from 62, I think, to aspirationally of 70%.
Which is the right objective, right?
100% behind that, massively behind that. But I don't understand why that can't be done with advice. I don't see why the two need to be separated. So it is a concern from an execution only perspective. We absolutely believe in the value of advice and believe that everybody should receive advice. It's the biggest probably financial transaction that you would ever do. But I also think within the same consultation papers there's lots of really interesting things around how do we grow the market, so how do we get more people on the market, and then how do we make sure that our advisors get a bigger share of that advice market. We'll
come on to asks in a few minutes. I guess from a lender's perspective, give maybe not an opposing view, but just an additional view.
Yeah.
So for me, always it's about the customer.
Yeah.
So the customer's choice has to be paramount. And the customer needs to be able to make an informed choice.
Yes.
So they need to have access to the right information, whether that's product information or data or market information. The customer has to be given the opportunity to make a decision. And I completely agree. Biggest transaction and most complicated transaction
Yes.
that they're likely ever to be involved in.
Yeah.
And advice will probably win each time. But I think it absolutely has to be on the customer to have enough information to make the decision and follow the route that they want to go down.
I understand that perspective also, and I think that's the key. It's making the customer fully aware that if they choose an execution only route, what the consequences of that execution only route are. And I know that from going from the consultation paper to actually the policy statement, the regulator talked about those people, if it happens at a lender, still need to be CMAT qualified. And if there's a vulnerable customer and consumer duty, etc., all of that has got to make sure that foreseeable harm doesn't happen, does it, to that customer. So I get that, I do understand that, and I do understand that it's about customer choice. But what worries me is you don't know what you don't know. No. So how do you know you're on the right term? How do you make sure that protection gap is covered, and those protection conversations absolutely have to happen. And I just think we need to go into this with our eyes very wide open. What are the unintended consequences? And that is what we'll always support the value of advice.
And also, to what degree will we see customer behaviour change? So I guess as we move throughout 2026 and beyond, we'll start to see some of that behavioural stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a new year,
new
set of challenges.
Yes.
So what's on your pad for your team and the club for 2026?
So I think we've set the bar really high in 2025, and it's building on that bar and going again. So how do we start to continue to look at the regulation and work either alongside the regulator or alongside our firms representing their view, which I think our size and our distribution gives us that. But the world is changing. The world is definitely changing. You're seeing AI come into everything. So how do we, as a mortgage club, also look at our plans and what we do? We're a payment route that goes, if you take it back to our core function, it was literally to facilitate payments. We've got to keep up with that pace of change as well. So definitely looking at that and how we keep up with that pace of change. We don't want to become irrelevant either. And it's really getting in the strategic helicopter. There's lots of really good stuff going on across the industry around the whole end-to-end mortgage journey. So as a mortgage club who facilitates payments right at the end of the journey, but we've got really good relationships with lenders and brokers, how do we influence some of the decisions that are made? How do we make sure that voices are heard, lenders' voices are heard, brokers' voices are heard, to make sure that it's a really well-functioning mortgage market fit for the future, 2026 and onwards. So really trying to get out of the L&G bubble into the more mortgage market strategic bubble. And then I suppose more micro level, we've still got Ignite, which we're really pushing forward with in 2026. It's a sourcing system that we're really feeling confident with. So we want that to really roll out across the market and be a tool that adds value, brings value. And then we again go back to the team. I have really got a fabulous team. So how do we continue to grow and develop the new starters that we've employed in 2025 and really see them go out as much as possible and bring in the news, and then we can support with innovation, etc. across the market. We've got our annual awards in June, which is always a highlight of the year. So that's business as usual.
Well, fingers crossed for us on that one.
Yes, definitely. I'm not saying anything, poker face on that one. And it was more of the same, but again, just lifting it up a level and getting in that strategic helicopter.
You mentioned AI, and I'll come on to that in a second, but headwinds for 2026? Have you got any views?
I think it's good that we've got through the budget at the end of last year. I think that was a real headwind for us at the end of last year. I think the headwind is the regulatory change for our advice industry. Right. Is that a real headwind or is that a perceived headwind? I think that is that will become more and more apparent as the year goes on. I think the housing supply is always a headwind. If we get more people onto the property ladder, because affordability rules are changing, etc. Does that start to increase the property prices out there? Or are we in that ever-decreasing circle? And I think AI could sit in positive and negative, or positive and challenge is probably a better word. So is AI a big threat? I think in the wrong hands, it could be. So that could be a headwind.
Well, let's move on to AI now. I'll come back to Ignite in a second if I can, but in terms of AI, so when I've been out and about, so I hear everything from it's crucial to the future of the intermediary market, and particularly your firm, to just hang on, hold fire, it's not developed enough, you need to be really cautious about using it. How do you position that with your members?
I think we're in an information gathering part of the journey. There are definitely going to be, in the future, there will definitely be positives that AI will bring, whether that's at the research stage of the journey, so it gives certainty quicker, it gets advisors advising, it really takes all of those tasks out of the journey that can be done by technology. But we've got to be absolutely confident that the decisions that it's driving are the right ones. A human makes an error, it could affect 2 or 3 people. AI makes an error, it could affect thousands. So that's definitely a concern. So I think the regulation of that AI is really important. AI can support advice, but it can't replace advice. I think it can really help an advisor to make the right decision, come up with a lender that they perhaps not considered. It could drive innovation in the market. It could get more people on the property ladder, but I absolutely believe that there should be humans involved in that at every step of the way.
And I think I agree. And for somebody who's been around the industry for quite some time, won't share exactly how long. For me, it's about asking yourself, if you're a business owner or you're running a big team, it's about asking yourself, what do I want the AI to do for me? How do I want it to enhance? How do I want it to improve? And can I make sure it's doing that for me? But caution around what data are you giving it, and where is that data being shared as well? And I will continue to watch with interest on how it develops.
I totally agree, and I don't think it's a matter of AI, is it going to happen? It's happening. And as an industry, I'm with you, we need to decide on how that will best works for the end customer, and that's not to push it away. It goes back to your point earlier around execution only. It's absolutely about customer choice, but how do we make sure that as an industry we're still completely relevant in that process, and people that really need that advice still got access to advice. AI can support the mortgage decisioning. I don't think there's any pushback there, but around advice, I think that AI it can't replace. It'll be really difficult, I think, to replace that human interaction.
Yeah, no, I'm completely in agreement with that. And I guess when we're talking about technology, from Skipton's perspective, in 2026, we'll kind of understand better how we serve brokers and how we serve customers. But we'll absolutely include the technology conversations, but only when we're confident and we're satisfied that the process and the delivery and what value we're adding to the customer and the broker. When we're completely sure we've finished that thinking, then we'll overlay the technology on top of that.
I think the biggest risk we run with AI, if we don't evolve and we don't, as an industry, don't drive our way forward that suits the customer, what if we got somebody a new third party, a new entrant coming into the market and did it at us. And suddenly lenders are not relevant anymore, broker firms are not relevant anymore. So we've got to evolve. The world is changing and we've got to evolve with that world. But it's within our gift to drive that journey forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. Evolving, let's go back to Ignite for a second. So Ignite continues to grow its data and and the information. How do you see the proposition and the product evolving?
So I think it's evolved from 2019. January 2019 from a research tool, which was criteria originally. We then added affordability, we then added product, and we've now become a fully fledged sourcing system. And we've had 2 new members to the team, Kelly Bretherton and Kelly Yollal, and they've brought into the team lots of experience, which I think we've got those fantastic foundations, and Kelly are really taking that on. We're absolutely focused on accuracy. We talk about accuracy of AI. Although Ignite is not AI, it's accurate. It's got to be accurate. So that's a real USP for our Ignite, and that's where you can see Kelly and Kelly really focusing. And we've come along a million miles. Lots of really exciting things this year. Any time now will be hopefully got quite a positive announcement, again based on the feedback that we've had over the last 6 months from brokers. So really invested lots of time, lots of listening on how is this not just something that adds a little bit of value. It genuinely makes a difference to brokers and also to lenders. The data that we can supply that is fabulous. That again, go back into your helicopter and that innovation. How do we grow the market, get more people on? It's really helpful data to really aid decision making. And
from a lender perspective, our decisions have to be data driven.
They've got to be.
And more so. So we think we know stuff because we've been around the industry for a while. We've got a lot of intuition, but actually quite often I see the data tells you something different. So
and it's a combination of the two, isn't it? That intuition, that knowledge, that experience. I that's my natural place. But absolutely, you can see again the world's changed, and that data to support that emotion, prove or disprove it, which is sometimes surprising.
Oh no, absolutely, and I've been caught out a few times.
Me too. Me too.
When we played the data. Just talk about Skipton a bit because it is my show after all.
Okay. Paul.
So from our perspective, completely agree. We'll continue to focus on our priority, which is helping people to have a home, and how that innovates, how we use technology, and where we go with product design. We think we've got a good range. Our kind of headline products of delayed start and track record and so on and so forth. And we'll try and understand better about, are they serving the underserved sectors? Are they serving the communities that they're designed for? How does affordability index adapt? So we know the most expensive and we know the most affordable parts of the country by local authority, but actually how can we use that data even more to inform the consumer and inform the intermediary market about the challenges for entering or entering home ownership or continuing in the rental sector. What we kind of call creating outstanding experiences, and for me this is about making sure we're delivering value and we're delivering service for the broker and for the customer. So we'll really concentrate on where do we help the customer to achieve their objectives? Where do we have hurdles or barriers in there to kind of make it a bit more difficult or take a bit longer than it should, and why do we do that? And maybe holding a mirror up to ourselves and saying, just go back and understand why we've created those processes and so on and so forth. But also a really important one for me is championing the intermediary market. So making sure that we can be really, really clear and really articulate about the value and the strength of relationships, about the fact that it has to be a two-way thing. It's not a menu. You don't just say yes, yes, no, no, yes, yes. It's about a symbiotic environment where we can learn off each other, we can challenge each other in the right way, and hopefully both create and add value from the relationship. So my team and I will be focusing on that. We'll talk about that to Greg and the team as we go through.
And that's music to my ears to hear you say that your job is to champion the intermediary is so important. Yep. I think there's a lot of nervousness in the market, so to hear you talk about championing the advisor is music to our ears.
And if we want the customer continue to have choice, continue to be informed, then we need a really healthy, successful, functioning intermediary sector. We absolutely have to.
Totally agree.
Or all of our worlds don't really exist, I guess. Yeah. Let's move forward to wishes and what we would like. What would you like the market, intermediary sector, distribution, or lenders to stop, start, continue as we go forward? Not just for 2026, but let's say maybe over the next 3 to 5 years.
I think we found our natural place in the mortgage market. You can see the advice market, the intermediaries are set up to provide advice, and they do a really good job of that. And then lenders are almost that product creator, that supplier. And I think in the past that's set up really well. And it's felt like a good balance. I think the changing of regulation could change that. That it's got the potential to adjust that slightly. And I think the biggest continue or even start in some situations is that collaboration and working together and understanding the market together. I've talked earlier about that it could quite easily disrupt the market with a third party entrant. It could disrupt the market for us all. So we've got the opportunity in 2026 and onwards, the world is changing, to work together to define our own future and our own success. There's a bigger willingness, I think, than there has been from the regulator since MMR to really develop and drive innovation. So it's that real, as you guys do here, it's that real innovation in the market to continue to grow and get more people on the housing ladder, and definitely don't work against each other. Challenge each other always. That's really, we don't want yes people. That positive challenge is really important. But all with the end customer in mind, what's best for that end customer. And I think it's using, not just L&G Mortgage Club, but it's using mortgage clubs and distributors that sit really well in the middle to bring that feedback and support. And
help educate. Yeah. So that's quite interesting, because I jotted some words down for my stop, start, continue. So when I've written stop. So stop talking the market down. Stop talking negatively about what we do collectively, because we've been a really sustainable industry for such a long time, and other industries haven't. So let's maybe celebrate a bit more what we do and what we've achieved. Collaborate more. So that's interesting that we both pick on the collaboration. Let's make sure we continue to collaborate more, because at the end of the day, it's about creating home ownership solutions for all sorts of consumers, whether they're starting out on their home ownership journey or whether they're getting to the end of it. So brilliant. Last question. Yeah. Change one thing in the industry. What would it be? One. You can have two if you like, but change one thing. What would you change, or what would you like done differently? More houses is the obvious one. So we've set some targets for house building, and from all of the narrative I see and hear, that's we're not where we need to be. So more houses. For the intermediary sector, one of the things which I am curious about is how much do firms and distributors, so this is on you guys as well, work to how particularly the first time buyer sector understand the value of advice. So if I talk to my daughter and I say, where do you get a mortgage from? She'll probably say you, me. But I'm not sure her peer group would understand the value of mortgage advice or be aware enough about where to go for it. So I'd like to see more of that available information for the consumer first time buyer?
I think that's a really, really relevant point. And my daughter bought a house last year and she hadn't got a clue where to start. So I absolutely get that one. So my change, and I think it's starting to happen, is I think there's different pillars of the mortgage market, the property buying, let's say, industry, that are ready and able to really make a difference and make buying a home easier and quicker. I think there's channels that are all ready, and I don't think the horizontals are in place.
Okay.
So I think there's lots of good noise coming out. There's the home buying and selling. There's the latest consultation paper to review the home buying and selling process. So there's that's out, which is good. I think it's not just the beginning of the process that needs work. It's all of those parts and bringing those together. It feels like we are starting to change that, but I think we've been stuck in a rut for so long, and that'll take so long. I'd like to see that talked about more understanding. I think there's lots of groups all over the industry that are popping up and doing really good stuff. How do you connect those? So it's improving that education and that understanding of what's going on with a real aim to make property home ownership easier. That's what I would like to change. So something really simple like just that's it.
And who's that on? Is that on all of us, or is that?
It goes back to my point, I think, my collaboration point.
Collectively.
Collectively. It can't be one part of the industry that does it, and it feels as if that is somebody is getting in the helicopter. And all the, like I say, all the verticals, it feels like the verticals are getting there, lots more tech enabled. There's advice, there's good lender innovation, there's the noise from the regulator, there's the reviewing of conveyancing and property passports again. But how do we bring that together to make change happen more effectively?
Well, let's watch this space for the next year or so. Listen, let's wrap it up there. Thank you very much for taking time to come today. Thoroughly enjoyed that conversation.
Me too.
Thank you for watching this episode of Skipton Talks. Click the link below to see more episodes. Thank you.